The sucker punch is the most common street attack and the most dangerous because you never see it coming. Martial arts never teach you how to stop it. Not karate, not Krav Maga, and not even Jeet Kune Do, and certainly not combat sports. And that's exactly why none of them qualify as legitimate reality-based combat methodologies. They leave you wide open. But after watching this video, you're going to know exactly how to shut down the sucker punch before it ever lands. Let's check it out. The sucker punch isn't hype. In New York City just last year, there was a wave of random attacks, at least 14 cases in just weeks, mostly targeting people walking the city streets. In Australia, they call it the coward punch, and in just 14 years, 91 people have died from a single strike. And in the US, it's called the knockout game, where the goal is to drop someone cold with a blinding punch. And remember, these are just reported cases. The truth is, most sucker punch attacks never even make it into the official crime statistics, which means it's much worse than what I'm telling you right now. Before we dive into the sucker punch defense techniques, you need to understand this goes far beyond the typical crap you see on YouTube, where everyone suddenly thinks they're an expert. I literally wrote 2 books on this subject addressing it. My book, Knockout, not only breaks down the predator's mindset, but also shows you how to take those same techniques and use them in a justifiable self-defense first strike situation. And that goes hand in hand with my book, First Strike, and video that shows you how to flip the script and use these principles as a legally justifiable, life-saving self-defense response. And if you're one of my War Machine Elite members, you can stream my First Strike videos along with my entire video library for free inside the members only section of this channel. And if you're not already a War Machine member, click the join button below to see all the perks and membership options we have available. When it comes to sucker punch defense, there are a lot of ways it can happen on the street. In this video, I'll cover 4 of the most common types, the ones you're most likely to face. Keep in mind, there are other variations, and I'll tackle those in a future video. But if you understand these 4, you've already got the blueprint to handle almost anything that comes your way. First, there is the blindside, where you're completely oblivious. Your head's buried in your phone, your ears are plugged into music, you're not paying attention, and someone cracks you from the side or from behind. If that happens, that's on you. There's no magic move that's going to save you. Once it lands, it's over. Second is what I call the walk-by punch. You're walking down the street, someone's about to pass you, and at the right moment, they cold cock you as they go by. That's different from being oblivious. It can happen even if you're alert because the attack is disguised in movement. Third is the classic face-to-face setup. You're squared off in a verbal confrontation, they act like they're talking, and then suddenly they launch an attack. This is the most common sucker punch scenario. And fourth is the distraction ambush. One person holds your attention by arguing or asking a question, while their buddy comes in from the side and drills you. That's a very common setup in group attacks. Those are the 4 realities of how sucker punches happen. Now, let's teach you how to defend against them one by one. Let's deal with the first reality, the blindside sucker punch. And I'm going to be blunt right now. If you're walking around with your head buried in your phone, blasting music in your earbuds, oblivious to your surroundings, and someone clocks you from the side or behind, that's on you. You own that mistake. There is no magic technique that's going to save you once that shot lands clean. The only defense here is prevention and situational awareness. Stay off your damn phone. Keep your head up, scan your environment, use reflective objects, and don't walk yourself into an attack. If you're oblivious, that's your fault. I can't help you. End of story. The walk-by punch is different from being oblivious. You might be alert, but the attack is disguised as a normal social movement. Someone walking past you. That's what makes it so effective. You don't get the usual cues. No square up, no words, no warning. It looks harmless until the fist is already in motion. The answer here is awareness, distance, and body positioning. Keep as much space as possible from people approaching and watch their hands and shoulders because the hands always give the cue. If you catch it late and can't block, drop your chin, roll your shoulder, and make the strike glance off your skull or forehead instead of your jaw. It won't land clean and will buy you the moment you need to counter. So when dealing with the sucker punch walk by, it's important to understand that you don't have time to raise your hands up. So you guys out there who say, well, if you can drop your head and roll your shoulder, you certainly could have enough time to block. No, you're wrong. You've never experienced real world combat by that statement. The truth is, it happens so quick, so sudden. So when Tommy comes out and I throw that shot, he doesn't have time to raise those hands up. The only thing he could do is turn his head into the blow, take it on the frontal bone, and make sure that his shoulder rolls with it. This is the only thing you can do in this circumstance. Now let me tell you something about the forehead. One of my students was a forensic pathologist, and he used to always tell me when they would conduct autopsies and cut through the forehead with a saw, the saw would always break because the forehead is incredibly dense. He throws that shot and he makes contact on that frontal bone, that forehead, he's gonna break his hand. And it's far better than taking a shot on the side of the jaw, the chin, or straight on the nose. Hey, we're about to get back into the video, but let me ask you something. Do you want to legitimately accelerate your self-defense skills? And are you sick of clickbait videos teaching absolute garbage? Or tired of being misled by unqualified wannabe experts who have zero credibility or experience? If the answer is yes, now is the time to join my War Machine memberships. As a member, you're going to get exclusive access to in-depth training videos, exclusive full-feature video content, downloadable training PDFs, and direct insights you're not going to find anywhere else. Plus, you're going to have direct access to me in the comments section of all my videos. So if you have questions, you're going to get real, detailed answers from me and not some random keyboard warrior. So if you're serious about mastering real-world combat skills, hit the join button below and start training like a true war machine. Now, let's get back to the lesson. The face-to-face setup is the easiest to deal with because you actually get the cues, distance, and time. This is where the science of pre-contact self-defense comes into play and where my first strike methodology dominates. The key is to always use a tactical pre-contact stance, either a de-escalation or first strike stance. It gives you the structure and distance while you engage with him and read his body language. Watch his hands, his weight shift, and his shoulders. If he suddenly turns like he's walking away, that often is a setup for a cold cock strike. If he drops his head and looks down, that's another classic trigger. These are the moments where most people get caught flat-footed. And this is exactly where my first strike methodology dominates. You don't wait for him to launch. You interrupt. You strike first. And you shut it down before it ever becomes a sucker punch. The key to the face-to-face setup with the sucker punch is tactical stances. Now I talk about this a lot in my book, Stand and Deliver. These are stances that are not discussed or taught in martial arts. These are things that are critical if you guys want to survive in the real world. You need tactical stances such as a de-escalation stance, a first strike stance, and even a natural stance. It all depends on the situation. When dealing with the sucker punch, it's really important that you have your hands up as you communicate and talk to him. And again, you want to try to create distance. Now, many times people say, well, don't let him get in that close. Well, let me tell you, that's bullshit. In the real world, people encroach upon you. Environments change. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of space. You have to deal with what you got. So people who comment or people who remark that, oh, just create distance, okay? Of course, we want to create distance if it's possible, but many times it's not. So in this case, let's say that I'm limited distance and here I am de-escalating with Tommy. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to watch what his shoulders are doing, because his shoulder is going to telegraph that sucker punch. It comes from here. Also, his facial expressions. Is he gritting his teeth? Is he really escalating his anger? These are cues that violence is imminent. Also, here's a strategy which has a double-edged sword. I don't really talk about it, but I'm going to share it with you. Moving while you're de-escalating. And I don't talk about this a lot because, again, it's a double-edged sword. If I'm de-escalating with Tommy, Tommy's pissed off, and as I'm de-escalating, Tommy just randomly...
Why'd you take my parking spot?
Okay, first of all, I don't know what parking spot you're talking about. First of all, you can calm down.
No, I'm not going to calm down.
Notice that when I move around, Tommy tracks me. And also, he encroaches. So that tells me right there that this is going to escalate. And he's looking to throw a strike. Now, it's important to understand, if I start, here's the double-edged part of this, that I don't like to always teach people, because if they don't use it properly and they don't have the nuances, it could actually cause him to throw the shot. Because if I start moving around, Tommy could perceive that as me setting up a shot. Okay, as if I'm looking for the best angle to strike. So it really depends on the situation. As you move and de-escalate, just move a little bit with me, Tommy, okay? And he keeps tracking, and then he starts to encroach a little bit, Tommy, chances are it's going to go down. So this is something that only you can decide if you want to add to your arsenal in dealing with the face-to-face situation. The first cue that he's going to sucker punch you is when he turns away from you, as if he's walking away, but then he throws the shot. So Tommy and I are going to replicate a scenario. Okay, listen, I didn't mean to cut you off of the light.
You did.
Look, it was my bad. I apologize, okay?
All right, good.
All right, fine. There it is. That's the shot. You never take your eyes off your opponent and assume that it's over. Never trust anybody in the streets. This is a typical sucker punch technique. Another type of sucker punch technique done when you're in a face-to-face confrontation is when he drops his head down, as if he's no longer a threat. This is how it plays out. First of all, listen, I had no idea that was your parking spot. You knew. Okay, first of all, I did not.
You knew.
Okay, look, I don't want any trouble. Okay, that is a typical situation. Throws the strike, drops his head down, making you think that there's no way he's gonna throw the shot, and then he launches it. Have your hands up, be prepared. When he throws a shot, block, engage the clinch, and then take care of business. The real key here is to watch body language. What is he doing? How is his body moving? How is his shoulder moving? What is his hands doing? Is he shifting weight back? Is he dropping back to throw that shot? These are all things that you need to be aware of. And doing lots of these role-playing scenarios will help you see these cues. Again, combat is dynamic. People are different. People behave differently. You need to learn how to pick these different cues. Again, watch the face, watch the shoulder, watch his body shift. What are his hands doing? Does he reel back? Is he shifting weight back to launch that shot? Again, I want to emphasize it over and over and over again. These are the cues that the sucker punch is coming. Now, in the face-to-face setup, if you see these cues, you need to strike first. And I have a lot of videos on this channel teaching you the first strike methodology. This is the only way you're going to turn the tables and control the situation. Strike first, strike fast, strike with authority, and keep the pressure on. And finally, we've got the distraction ambush. This is where one guy ties you up, asking a question, arguing, or otherwise pulling your attention away, while his buddy comes in from the side and sucker punches you. This setup is common in group assaults because it plays on your natural tendency to focus on the person right in front of you. I talk a lot about this in my instructional video called Rat Packed, which is available to stream for free on the War Machine members platform of this channel. The way you deal with this comes down to awareness, positioning, and not letting yourself get flanked. You don't lock onto the talker. You keep scanning and angle your body so you can see both people at once. If the second guy still manages to attack, you've got to cover fast, reorient, and then counter hard to regain control of the situation.
Look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take your parking spot. I apologize. Hey, what's going on?
Excellent job. Notice when I tried to flank Tommy, he maneuvered himself on an angle, so me and my partner are now parallel to each other. Originally, go ahead, Tommy, de-escalate for a second. Originally, I flanked him, and that is where the sucker punch comes. But by him maneuvering, we are now parallel to each other, and that's a hell of a lot easier to deal with multiple attackers when they're parallel, not when you have someone on your flank. And I talk a lot about this in my video, Rat Packed. It's important to understand you need distance and you need space to manipulate the range. Again, every environment is different. These are things that you can do to help minimize the chances of being sucker punched in this situation. So those are the 4 realities of the sucker punch and the ways you can actually deal with them in the real world. This is the science behind my contemporary fighting arts system. My book Knockout not only breaks down the predator's mindset, but also shows you how to take those same techniques and use them in a justifiable self-defense first strike situation. And that goes hand in hand with my First Strike book and my full-length feature video program. And if you're a War Machine Elite member, First Strike is already waiting for you, along with my entire library. Don't be the guy who gets blindsided. Get the knowledge, train it, and make sure you never get sucker punched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next video.